Hello there. Good to see you all. And thanks for joining me. I had a couple of things I wanted to talk about today concerning containers and their safety. But as it happens, this week has gone a bit crazy already. It's only Tuesday. I heard this morning, for instance, that an investment fund manager who I hadn't come across before has taken a majority shareholding in Peacock Container with plans for growth, which is good news for Jessica Maiden, I guess, and stating that they could see a lot of growth in the market for tank container leasing, and that tanks are being increasingly used. Not just for transport, but for temporary storage as well. And as I've heard from people in the industry, especially during the COVID pandemic, in fact, that a lot more chemical companies are using tank containers, partly because there's no room in tank storage, but also because they're more flexible. You can put them where you want them rather than where a terminal happens to be. The lease terms are probably more flexible as well, and so there is demand, and it's not just Peacock. Of course, at the end of last year, we saw GATX buying Trifleet. So you've got to put these tanks somewhere, and I also saw this week that Chemion has put the finishing touches to its new container terminal at the Chempark Dormagen, just off the Rhine, south of Dusseldorf in Germany, which offers 1,000 spaces for containers, boxes and tanks for the local chemical industry. And they said very much the same thing, that they see a lot more demand for tank containers as opposed to drums, in fact, in that case, because they are easier to store and you can put more product in a tank than you can in drums in a box. I shall be interested to see ITCO's annual fleet survey, which is due out very soon, I know already. Good work there. I had a brief chat with Reg Lee yesterday. There is growth in the fleet over the past year, but possibly not as much as there has been in previous years, which, is probably not a bad thing, frankly. But to go back to what I was going to talk about, I've noticed a lot of reports lately of container ships losing containers overboard while at sea. Some of these have involved the new breed of mega container ships. You've got a lot of boxes on there. You've got about 25,000 TEU on some of these vessels. But they're not all those big ships. And of course, it's that time of the year when the weather at sea isn't great, especially in parts of the North Atlantic and the Pacific, indeed. Where some of these incidents have occurred. Others have been closer into shore, which always raises problems. If you lose containers overboard in a shipping lane, they have a tendency to float just below the surface. So another ship can come along and hit them, which is not good. They may wash up ashore, and if they're containing dangerous goods, then that can be a problem. The IMDG code requires labels and placards used on boxes and to be weather resistant, to be able to cope with being immersed in seawater for, I think it's 3 months or something. We had a very interesting article on that subject in the February issue of HCB magazine from Label Line, who conduct testing on their own placards. Fortunately for them, they happen to be situated right next to the water in the Bristol Channel. Where is it? It's probably the Bristol Channel at that point, where they can stick their labels on a frame and put them in the water and let the tide come in and out to prove that they can meet the requirement. So if you're shipping by sea, don't forget that one, because it could be important if somebody comes across your product on a beach having fallen off a container. The other topic I wanted to talk about, and this regular viewers will know this is an ongoing issue, is fires aboard container ships. TT Club, which has been doing a lot of work in this area for several years now, and the UK P&I Club last week held the second of 3 webinars they're planning on this subject, featuring 2 presentations, one from John Gow of I can't remember, IFIC Forensics, I think, and one from Mark Haslam of Brooks Bell. John Gow's a firefighter with 40 years experience. John Haslam's a master mariner with 21 years at sea, I think. So these guys knew what they were talking about, and it was very interesting. I believe the recording's still up there, so you can probably go and register and look at it. One of the points that I thought was very interesting was this, that they quoted the figures that we hear from TT Club and the like, that a fire breaks out on a container ship around about once every 2 weeks. So you've got about 25 a year, say, fires aboard container ships. But, you know, only a handful, maybe 4 or 5, 6 a year, turn into the huge events that make the front pages, certainly in the maritime press. Things like the Maersk Honam, MSC Flaminia, Hyundai Fortune, Hanjin Pennsylvania. Those events that we all remember are fairly rare, which suggests that of the 25 fires breaking out every year, 20 of them get dealt with without it becoming a major problem. And there are, of course, ways of keeping a fire in check if it breaks out on a container ship. Water mist monitors can keep it under control, at least until somebody with something bigger and better gets to the ship, which may be a few days, of course, depending on where it is. CO2 systems, especially for underdeck use, can control fires. And a fire that breaks out in a container, unless it's an oxidizing substance or an explosive, is contained by the amount of oxygen that's in the container. As long as the container is in good shape and it's not got holes in it that allow extra air in, it may well go out, or at least go down to a smoulder. So there are some bright spots in this apparent litany of ongoing container ship fires. Mark Haslam also noted that some of the more responsible container lines are building ships now that go above and beyond what SOLAS requires in terms of firefighting. MSC, for instance, on their big ships, have got fire monitors mounted atop the accommodation block and the engine block, which in the configuration of these massive ships are separated by quite a distance. And those fire monitors can reach the whole length of the ship, and have got additional CO2 injection points. He did say, well, if hatches were airtight, it would make life a lot easier, but they're not designed to be, indeed. And the pair of them and some of the people who were watching did suggest, well, if we know that fires can be extinguished or dealt with, managed aboard ship most of the time, which is what the statistics suggest, then can't we learn from those lessons? Yes, it's better to learn from successes than failures. And the search is on, I suppose, for an appropriate medium by which to disseminate experiences of successful fire fighting or fire containment, at the very least, aboard container ships. CINS is the obvious point, but then maybe that'd be limited to its members. It doesn't have to be, I suppose. The insurance companies, TT Club in particular, probably offer a good route to make the good news more widely known. That's it from me for this week. I hope you're keeping well, and if you're suffering Snowmageddon, I hope it's passing. Next week, with any luck, if I get the figures in time, I might have a quick chat with you about the ITCO Tank Container Fleet Survey. Meanwhile, stay well, take care, bye for now.